Hello, Rajni Ben. How are you? You have to unmute yourself.
Rajni, hi.
So sorry. Yes, yes. नमस्ते. मैं कह रही थी आप कैसे हैं?
Very good.
Is the being at home all the time wearing you down now, or
No. I think we have now 26 hours a day.
Sorry, ji, 26
And actually, we are also running a massive high-level education program, a client continuing education program.
Hi, Amit.
And then
Hi, Rajni. Okay.
three sessions a day, three
जी,
to four
जी.
sessions a day, and then because this is the best time to share experience, educate people, learn from each other,
Yeah.
live minimalistic life, be happy with family, and of
That is
course we
that
are
is true.
sorry for the pandemic, but I think there have been a lot of upside, including a clean environment, and I don't know if you know, but in we are at Marine Drive, and at times dolphins are seen now. Uh, at near Chopati, peacocks have been seen. At Juhu Beach, deers are there. So on
Yeah.
the street, we are in the cages, and they are in the street to watch us.
That is ironic. I know.
I think the role has reversed. We don't go to zoo; they come to human zoo now. And but in many ways, I think this has taught us a lot of lessons, and I don't want to go on and on. I think we have a program coming up, and
Ji, ji. Well, we will maybe we'll talk about it another time.
yeah, thank you.
Ji.
Yeah, we're all set. Welcoming folks.
I'll just
Hey,
give you
Jeremy.
my extra phone.
Hi, Matt.
How are you?
I'm doing good.
And I think we are just about getting ready. Meenakshi, hi, if you can hear me.
Hi Amit, I can hear you very well. How are you?
Good. All's good. All's good. Long time.
Yes, long time.
These sessions are becoming a good way for me to just see old familiar friends and faces. So we should have other day. You were there, and a lot of the community showed up. So we're expecting a similar or turn up.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we still have 5 minutes to go.
Amit, Vineet and I did have a chat yesterday,
Good.
so we are all set.
Vineet is always set. I know.
And that is true. That is true. I am planning to show off in the
Good.
beginning that I'm proud to say I know Vineet from when the idea of Avishkar was just a gleam in his eye. And, he was running the startup from his dining table.
Good. No, let's.
I have the pleasure of feeling like I've been a part of that history, at least a witness to it. I can't say I'm a part of it, but.
We have to sit with Nishit Bhai and all of these guys. Sometime I think a lot of our early pioneers of at least this sector always show up at Nishit's door at some point in time with their documentation, hoping that So Nishit Bhai probably also has a great amount of stories to tell. So Nishit Bhai, we haven't. The moment the environment allows, we are going to do stuff at Alibag. So
Yeah, most welcome. Yes. Most welcome. But I think this, all the Zoom and WebEx and Microsoft Teams are allowing us to come together at the speed of thought.
Yeah. This is.
And it's so good. You don't have to dress up. You don't have to. So, and I think roti and makan are becoming important. Kapda to abhi you need only 10% or 5% of what you normally have, you know.
Yeah.
Everything is there. The cost of washing and ironing and dry cleaning and suits, everything is off the hook. I think what better life than going back to the natural habitat.
And our rock star is here. Welcome, Vineet. Good to
Hey,
see you
Thank
again.
you.
hey, Vineet,
Good to see you, man. Good evening, sir.
good, absolutely.
Oh.
Thank you
Very nice.
for joining.
Hey.
We're gonna give
Hi,
Vineet
Vineet.
everyone a few minutes to all log in because I think the best thing Nishit Bhai is now the Indian Standard Time is predictable and people show up with all these,
I
Hi
know.
Rajat, hi Rajat, I see
Hi,
you.
hi, Amit. Hi, good to see you.
How are you?
Good, Nishit Bhai, how are you?
Good. Yes.
Yeah, I entered when you were talking about dressing. Oops.
Yes.
So yeah, even I.
Important.
Okay. Hi Pratyush.
Hi everyone.
See as many. I see our rice scholars are joining. I'm seeing Krishna. Hi Krishna. I see. Okay. Manthan, good. Okay. So, Rajni, our challenge is going to be making sure everything happens within the 45 minutes. We're going to start bang on time and in another 15 seconds.
Yeah.
And it is distracting that the tiles keep changing position as people are joining in, and they'll keep joining for the next several minutes.
Ji.
So let's just kick start. Nishit Bhai, you're okay. Shall we get started?
Yes, of course. Let's do it. Yeah. As I speak, most of which is already known to you all. So thank you so much for this opportunity to be, I'm not a guest, I am a host. So you can have position of a chief host as well, but you are the, co-chief or whatever it is. It's such a wonderful, opportunity to talk to you all, and of course, so everybody knows Vineet and Ranni Ben, I don't think I need to give long introduction, but if it is only as a measure of, situation where somebody doesn't know, let me talk. So it's first of all, Vineet, most welcome. Thank you so much. You are always there for us, and I
Thank
really,
you. Thank you.
first of all, Ranni Ben to you too. You've been Diane here, and everybody is looking forward to, you're moderating the session. And for those who do not know Vineet, by any chance, I'm only taking a chance that he has been the founder and chairman of Avishkar Group with over 17 years of experience in the early stage investing, small business incubation, and microfinance, very important spaces. And he has been a pioneer in impact investment space. Vineet's philosophy has always been to build the entire ecosystem for the impact investing rather than just, developing financial products.
With the images, I'm going to send you what to send back. You upload it from your.
Can you? Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Was it clear, audible?
Yes.
Full of all the noisy stuff, I hope I've heard. I don't want a good introduction to go away. So, Vineet has been pioneering impact investment space, as I was telling. Vineet's philosophy has also been to build the entire ecosystem for impact investing rather than just, making money in one financial product or tool and stuff like that. So, Vineet, of course, has always believed in impact investing as a global phenomenon, and I think the time has come, and its potential to change the world of the finance irreversibly, and expected to play a pivotal role in delivering sustainable development goals, or SDGs as we call them now, by 2030. And my personal feel is that SDG is going to drive next 5-7 years, all the valuations, if you take the economic side of the whole thing. More the integration of SDG, I think better the valuations. I think many business people understand language of economics, the value. Another thing is, I think in the next 5-10 years, we'll see more integration of human rights into the businesses, I think. And that will be the next level that we'll be moving on at the moment. But, so Vineet has contributed hugely to the whole space, And of course, Randy, you've been a Gandhian scholar par excellence. You've been an author, journalist, and award-winning author of, so the best books that are written, Bapu Kutir and other ones. I don't know. I can't rattle all of them, but you've done a wonderful job, and you've been winner of the Gandhi Peace Fellow Award, and inspired so many people around. And some of your books, as I was talking about Gandhi Kutir, has also been turned into a film called Swadesh, And there is, I think, nobody better to interview, especially in this kind of setting, Vineet than Randiben. And of course, I also welcome 20 students from Aspire's summer leadership program and 8 RAISE scholars. They will join us in asking candid questions of Vineet. Vineet is always candid anyway, so this will be double whammy. And, of course, it would be very nice to have this dialogue going, and there can be no impact revolution without investors and the Avishkar group, as we all know, right? And Avishkar today has almost $1 billion of asset under management. I'm not on number per se, but all on the impact that he has created. From small thing to $1 billion is not mean achievement. And, and he plays key role in India's growth. And even as a firm, NDA, we are always happy to support impact actors like Avishkar Group. Anytime anyone has anything, we are always there. And Amit has been a great friend. So together we can always do many more exciting, interesting things. But I don't want to take too much time. So without much ado, let me hand over to Reniben. And let's...
Nishit bhai, look, and as Rajni takes over, I want to add my little welcome to yours, because you were not properly introduced. And I just want everyone to know that Nishit bhai has been, the classical, support system for anything impact going on in India. He's helped me when I was setting up IIC and GSG and Social Finance India. So Nishit has been omnipresent. He's a great mentor, inspiring speaker, and a great philanthropist. So thank you, Nishit bhai, for helping open this dialogue. Just also want to quickly acknowledge our partners who are here. In addition to NDA, we got IVCA here, TIE Delhi, and we got Jindal Center for Social Entrepreneurship, which Jeremy recommends. And Rajat is here, who's the CEO of IVCA. So thank you all. Just want once again to welcome you all on behalf of Aspire Impact, as we come out with a slew of products in executive education and ecosystem development. Nothing better to introduce our field than this session with Vineet Rai. So without further ado, Rajni Ben, please take it over.
Thank you so much. Firstly, for inviting me and giving me this honor. It's very big honor to me. So I'm going to start by showing off that I know Vineet from before he was famous. And that I think, Vineet, when we first met, Avishkar was a mere gleam in your eye, and you were running it from your dining table. And that was, I think, around 2000 or 2001. And so, yeah, following Vineet's journey became an important part of the research that I did on my book, Bazaars, Conversations and Freedom. So Vineet, I thought maybe we'll start there, because that was the thing that, made us realize we were on the same page, that even you do make a big distinction between the bazaar energies and the market, which is what impact investors are in. But in fact, impact investing tries to blur these lines, right? And to be helpful in the bazaar spaces. So would you explain the difference? Because I'm assuming that many of our young listeners may not be familiar with this distinction.
I think first, thank you, Nishit Bhai, Amit, and Rajni. So lovely to be here. I think it's a complex thing. It's very difficult to explain people what a bazaar is, but I think there are many economies which actually coexist with each other. But the idea of impact is when you try to connect the economies which actually don't really cross each other, and that's really what, in some sense, we have been all trying to do when we become an impact investor. But I think the very important thing that probably a lot of people will have in their mind is, when you are actually an impact investor, are there companies that don't make impact? Because what's so special about being an impact investor? And a lot of people who join me also find it quite bizarre. So how do you say that this company doesn't make impact? And the reality is, the starting point of impact investing is that everybody makes impact. Now, I can give you two examples. I will actually pick up an example from a very bizarre kind of thinking. Most of you would know tobacco. Tobacco cultivation is actually probably the first cash crop that all small landhold farmers actually started doing. Now, so how can tobacco cultivation not be impact investing? Why would you not do it? It creates jobs. It works with very poor people. Or, for example, some of you do not know, but I'm a forester, so let me take you to the forest of Madhya Pradesh. Tendupatta, which is actually rolled into a bidi, which is again where you put in tobacco, is roughly 1,000 crore business. Now, why would an impact investor not invest into that business? Because while there is a lot of positivity with all the businesses, some businesses actually have a significant amount of, as I gave, also have a very significant negativity associated with them. And if you are actually a business which is neutral to positive or negatives of impact, then let's assume for a start, if you want to give 100 as a mark to any company, you start at 50. And the 50 is you are actually doing your business legally, ethically, creating jobs in the process, but you have no real intent or and desire to make something very unique or different happen in the society. And I think that's really where impact investing came into being, where you come up with a very clear statement, I want to make impact, and then you demonstrate how you will make an impact. And an investor who chooses you because you are doing these two things makes you an impact investor. So very simply put, this is how an impact investor is different from a venture capital fund. Private equity.
Vineet, but also I think you've played a key role in enabling the positive energies on the ground. Because we know that actually, if we are going to talk about toxic elements, there are as many in a village economy as there are also toxic elements in terms of greed and irresponsibility towards externalities, though they take different forms. So in what ways have you contended with these realities in your specific projects? You know, how do you hold people accountable to some normative structure?
Greed is a very challenging thing to, it's actually a human emotion, which is in a capitalistic society, when we do management, you are essentially trying to push greed forward. So, I mean, when you do an MBA, you are essentially being told greed is good because Wall Street is where the maximum money is being made. So go and do it. And I think it's a very, very difficult thing to tell people how to manage their greed. Nishit Bhai was mentioning that in the post-COVID world, certainly your requirements of what you need for having a great life has come down so significantly that even if you are rich, it doesn't really make sense because you don't spend money. I think the challenge in impact investing is your excitement is not the money that you make, but the money that the poor make. And my personal journey started with the idea when I actually met and spoke to some few hundred of poor people and asked them, because I was told poor are nicer people, poor are different, poor have larger hearts. And to my great surprise, I found poor exactly as good or as bad as the rich. And funnily, everybody told me poor are good people, but then all poor wanted to be rich. All good people wanted to be bad. So it was quite a strange phenomenon. I was quite young. I was 24, 25, and coming up with this very controversial thought process that all the good wants to become bad was very jarring to me. And I finally realized that people who are poor actually are looking for a better life, and better life need not necessarily be a bad life. And I think that's the conflict in the post-COVID world, and I actually wrote about it. In the post-COVID world, we are actually dealing with a conflict where maximizing return or return at all cost is now clashing with the whole idea of resilience, because people are realizing that making money, you can actually probably cut open the stomach of the golden egg laying goose, expecting to take out everything. You will have a dead goose and no new eggs. So you are better to be more patient and long-term. And long-termism and patience are basically the two critical virtues that impact investing really vouches for. Yes, we all also want to create unicorns, but you don't need to create a unicorn at the expense of everything else. So these are the conflicts that we are dealing with. Of course, the conflict of greed will be probably the most important one. And whether it is a company here or a company there, but I think, I don't think so individual companies really will be telling the great stories. It is the bringing the whole thing together and making this complex thing work really makes it happen.
So Vineet, historically, say if we are talking about the last 50 years, we've seen both examples at the ground level of communities and ground level entrepreneurs, whether they are farmers or other kinds of producers, having no sense of the long term. We've seen those examples, right? That's why we get sugarcane being grown with groundwater, which by any common sense criteria is a suicidal enterprise. I mean, it's only going to last maximum 4, 5, 6 years. But we've also seen the opposite. We've seen a growing awareness among communities and groups of producers of different kinds. So what is, on balance, what do you think is currently the mood? Say in the pre-COVID India, what was on the rise? Because that at the end of the day also makes a very big difference, whether it is a farmer or it is a small and medium scale entrepreneur, you know, in Gujarat or anywhere who's pumping toxic materials into the ground and, you know, spoiling the groundwater for everyone, including himself.
So I'll give you an example, and this example to illustrate how markets are actually driving good behavior at the end of the farmers, and how farmers then are driving good behavior for the market. It's not possible for me to actually say this without illustrating or giving an example. So India was a millet eating country. Millets, those who don't understand, jowar, bajra, ragi. So north to south, we used to eat millets. Now, it's amazing actually. India, most of our children, most of the young guys here probably do not even know what millets are or how much difference do they make. And we are a paddy wheat eating country now. So we are a rice wheat country. Now, what is rice and wheat? Both are actually massively water guzzling. One requires flood irrigation, the other actually, and then a significant amount of, funnily, they are also not good for our health. Both these products, India is today diabetes capital because we change what we eat. What is millet? Millet is actually a crop any farmer can grow. It is a very hardy crop. It doesn't require much water. It doesn't require insecticide and pesticide in the quantity that both paddy and wheat requires. So why did India leave millets and move to paddy and wheat? Because we changed the way our tongue responds to the food. And now, if you want to actually use market forces to take India back to millets, what do you need to do? It's impossible to make a farmer use his land to produce millets. The way to do it is you go to the markets and make the rich Indians find a product that they really want to buy, they are excited about. And so we invested in a company called Soulful. What it does is it doesn't buy millets from farmers. It actually converts millets into a breakfast cereal that rich Indian kids love to eat. Now, that is the behavior change that the markets have the power to do that the farmers cannot. And if the markets is actually going to be driven towards good food, you would have more and more, and of course, Soulful is a very small company. So I'm not saying that Soulful itself, but I'm guessing Soulful's success will inspire 20, 30, 40, 50 different kind of innovations in millets coming through. And instead of 500 tons that Soulful consume, Soulful may start consuming 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 tons. And then there will be 50 other or 100 other companies producing similar kinds of products of millets. And Indians will go back to eating millets because Indians are also getting very conscious about their health. And this is really the virtuous cycle that impact investing has to deliver. It's a complex, difficult cycle. Results take a long time to come, but that's really what defines us. Now, what is happening, and this is where I'll tell you why I actually get very irritated with the global thought process. The Western world wants me to actually measure the impact soulful selling is making on the income of the farmer. Unfortunately, that's a very direct connection, and that does not require you to think beyond the obvious. This is a far more deeper and a nuanced problem. It will take much longer time. And the entire discussion about intent, that is the global discussion, and the measurement is actually focused on converting an art into a mathematical science. And unfortunately, that challenge I am not able to resolve because it's much easier. So it's much easier to go to an audience and say, I have made a significant difference to the life of 1 million people. And if I add all the millions that have been touched by all of us put together, 50, 70, 100, 200 funds who are working, in world actually doesn't require any more poverty because we have already solved it. Just add all the impact that all of us have made. It's just so stupid, but we just love to put it there. And that's really where our challenge lies. We are those folks right now who have sold impact investing to ourselves as the old wine in a new bottle. And we don't want to change or do anything different. And that reality will kill impact investing if we don't correct ourselves. So,
yeah, Vineet, recently you wrote an article in which you wondered aloud whether impact investing has been mainstreamed or has it been co-opted. So does the COVID phenomenon, I mean, does this, hiatus in the normal stream of life, do you see signs that it can move us towards the next stage of challenge in terms of regenerating imagination and coming out of the hole that you've just described?
See, I always found it quite fascinating. Impact investing to be mainstreamed. I always thought I will be mainstreamed only if mainstream is better than me. So if impact investing is not good, then it should be mainstream. Otherwise, if mainstream is bad and impact investing is good, then mainstream should be impact invested. And that clash has been quite funny. I think mainstream was far smarter, far more sophisticated. And once they realized that the power of impact investing is not really to challenge philanthropy, but it's challenging the hegemony of capital and maximization of returns, they very smartly and swiftly moved to co-opt impact investing. They told impact investing, you should look like us, you should feel like us, become us. And we, like very naive, young, good folks, actually very quickly became one. So the only thing that right now impact investing does is commits 20% dollar returns while making impact, which is like having your cake and eating it too. Now, it's very simple, very simplistic, but that's what impact investing right now is doing, trying to deliver 20, 25% dollar returns, which even the mainstream struggles to deliver while changing the world. So it's quite amazing if we can do it, but it's unfortunately not happening. What we are doing is actually created this very complex conundrum of reporting, which actually requires maybe $100,000, $200,000 to come up with a fantastic report that shows how much impact you have made. And that's really where we have moved. Now, what has COVID done? COVID has actually really put the fear of God in the mind of those who are actually very rich and very powerful. And who are these rich and powerful? They actually never thought that impact is something that will happen to them. They don't need to do impact because they were too far away from the melting of the glaciers, so climate change, or they were very far away from the challenges that poor on the ground face. Remember that climate change problems do not go to the rich. It actually comes to the poor first. And mostly impact happens at the bottom. So whether it is climate change, it is real impact, making those, this was being done out of, and generally most people believe that a very small percentage, 0.1%, 2%, 1% of their capital is good enough to do it. 99% should actually keep creating the wedge between the poor and the rich. I think what has COVID done? COVID actually has taken the fear right into the boardrooms because the world has never been so paralyzed as has COVID done. What few microns of virus actually paralyzing the global economy. The $300 trillion of global money right now is not fearful of the 20% return. It is worried about actually between 150 trillion because of the dissipation of capital that is taking place because of what virus is delivered. Now, when something like this happens, you want to actually start reflecting on, because money does not, the first thing that money doesn't want is volatility. And the most important thing anybody who has money is they don't want a decimation. So $300 billion, 300 trillion not becoming 301 trillion is fine, but it should not become 299 trillion. And when this thinking comes, the powerful have fear in them. They don't want to lose the capital. And in that sense, they have started thinking about these challenges in a very different light. And I am saying it with great confidence because now I have been in conversation with some of the richest and the largest sovereign funds who would never talk to an Avishkar, who are actually saying that the world today is faced with a crisis that has made us rethink and relook at the challenges that we are seeing in front of us. And probably the volatility that comes by in the long-termism, the long-term challenges, we need to address that. And if there is an alternate way of doing it, we are willing to consider it. It's not that because they love it. I think changes in the world happen not because poor are actually impacted or things have happened or people's heart melted. It happens when those who are in the position of taking decisions and putting mandates become fearful. So impact investing is not going to win because it is great. Impact investing is going to win because those who are powerful are fearful.
Thanks, Vineet. So now we'll move to questions from the youngsters in our meeting today. So this is a question from young Kashyap. He asks you to please throw some light on the notion of equity versus efficiency trade-off. How do you respond to people who say that impact-focused ventures may not be as profitable, i.e. efficient, as traditional businesses?
Yeah, this actually generally comes from those who actually either don't understand business or don't understand impact investing, either or both of them. First and foremost, impact investing is nothing unique. It is actually a normal business. What you are doing is you're making a choice. And that choice is, so for example, there are people who invest in technology. There are people who invest in climate. There are people who invest in energy. There are people who actually start very futuristic business. And there are people who are sending people to Mars. Now, there is no guarantee in any business that you are going to be more efficient and smarter and deliver money. So there is an act of probability. And what is the difference actually between impact investing, let's say venture capital investing and impact investing? In venture capital investing, you have a very evolved ecosystem. So you are taking a very high risk in an evolved ecosystem. In impact investing, we are making a choice of going and trying to explore a broken ecosystem by taking capital that has the willingness to be patient for a slightly longer period. Now, if you go and look at the returns that have been made by microfinance institutions, where private equity, impact investing, everybody is involved, the returns have actually been at par or even much superior to mainstream returns. So therefore, if anybody tells me that it is inefficient or is actually delivering low return, is not being bright. It is as good or as bad as sending people to Mars. Nobody knows by sending people to Mars, you are going to generate very significant returns. Similarly, when Professor Yunus came up with the idea that poor is bankable, nobody knew that it's going to be India itself will be sitting on 2 lakh crores of microfinance. Nobody knew that. And therefore, microfinance delivered returns not in India, not in Bangladesh, world over. And similarly, when you are actually trying to say that farmer needs to be made rich and let's actually try to use technology, let's try to use everything else to create value, that actually has a challenge in terms of success. But when the success comes, the returns that you will generate are going to be, nobody's capping the return. There is nothing, even in the social stock exchange report that we just finished, we have very clearly said that if you are going to take extraordinary risk, extraordinary returns are possible. They are not usurious. You are not trying to actually fleece anybody to do it. Simply because the opportunity is so huge, you will make returns. Dealing with a market of 3.5 billion people is a very large market and it will deliver very large returns. So there is that anybody who actually says that this is inefficient or not smart, probably don't understand what we are talking about.
Thanks, Vineet. So I'm sorry, I was supposed to ask the students to ask their own questions. So Akhil, can I call on you now, please, to ask your question?
Thank you, ma'am. Vineet. So incidentally, you mentioned Professor Yunus. I was working with Yunus Social Business with Suresh Krishna here in India. My question is related to setting up impact investing funds? I mean, you've obviously gone through the whole cycle of it many years ago, and I heard your story of setting it up, Avishkar, all those years ago. My question specifically is, what challenges do you see for somebody who wants to set up a new impact investing fund in India now?
See, setting up a fund is challenging, irrespective. A lot depends on what is your objective and why you want to do it. An impact investing fund could mean anything. You want to deliver market returns, you want to deliver subsidized returns, you want to actually deliver no return, you want to actually set up a social venture fund. SEBI has actually a law under which you can set up a social venture fund as well. So a lot depends on your objective and your ability to convince people with money to give you money. It is as simple as that. Remember that if you have been a social entrepreneur ever and tried to raise money, and if you felt it was difficult, just fundraising is actually a compounding of difficulty. So let's say if you are doing, if you think you assign a difficulty level of 10 to raising a fund for a social enterprise, then raising a social impact fund is compounded. So it's 10 to the power 10. So best of luck for making the effort, but be prepared for a very long haul, and failure is going to be guaranteed. Success is going to be a rarity.
Can I just add a word here?
Yes, Nishit.
Yeah, I think what we have seen is that there is a lot more awareness and there is a lot more pool of money that is available for impact investing today than it was ever before. There's more understanding, there are more people willing to come. And also there are studies which have shown that how we, like McKinsey report or other ones that are there already when we work. So at least there is more awareness. So it's it is not as difficult as perhaps when, when it started. That's what I'll say. So you are starting on the environment.
I think that's the challenge is not really about timing, because of course today impact investing isn't defined this thing. The money that is available is actually seeking the same returns as the mainstream and is not interested in going to first-time fund managers. So that's really where the distinction is. So today money is very aware, it has choices, and it is, so I was actually in a much better time because there was nobody. So it was very easy for me to actually get 10,000, 20,000, 50,000. Today, the difference is actually people are very aware. So they think it is much better to go with, and this is actually the challenge that a startup fund manager will face. And I actually don't want to unnecessarily encourage or unnecessarily discourage you, because a lot depends on what is your ability to be confident about. But it's going to be a long haul, and you will require all the support for it. And it applies to just raising a fund also. So it's not really about just any impact fund. Any other fund, impact fund is a little more difficult. That's it.
Absolutely, I think. Yeah.
Thank you,
All I was
Vineet.
trying to say was that today, it's the awareness is more, and you have better story to tell, use case studies and stuff like that. So I think environment is better. So it's up to you how you make it up. But I don't know.
No, not at all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Manliv, can I ask you to come in with your question here?
Yes, ma'am. So my question is, in 2010, India's microfinance sector went for a toss because of a few bad apples, with millions of dollars were lost during that period. So what impact investment risks must we manage to avoid a similar kind of crisis in our investment?
Yeah, so we set up India Impact Investor Council to actually do that. I mean, it was very difficult for me to convince to a lot of people to join it, but initially, I think we managed to do that. And I think it's not really about bad apple. Microfinance challenges in 2010 has nothing to do with bad apples. It was actually a competition between the government and the lenders. And of course, any startup industry has all kinds of challenges. I think I wrote a paper for Harvard Business Review. You can just Google it, Vineet Rai, HBR, microfinance, you'll find it. It actually tells you the actual real story of what actually happened in 2010. So the bad apple story continues to be told very often. But the reality was that it was a competition between an authority that was actually trying to do business and had, so this was a judge, jury, and the executioner. was the same in this condition, in this situation.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Vineet. Though, I mean, there were systemic issues there, but I think let's leave that for later. Tanjot, requesting you to please ask your question.
Good evening, sir. I'm Tanjot Chawla, and I wanted to ask that as impact investment gains momentum, PE and venture capital players are jumping in the fray. Is this good for the sector or bad for the sector?
See, any sector when it evolves will attract all kinds of attention. So, which is what I'm again repeating. Maturity of every sector is how it deals with that, actually its popularity. And I think impact investing is right now dealing with its challenges, which comes with popularity. So I think you might actually remember AAP as a party. When it started off, everybody thought this is a party of honest. Then you actually suddenly have a lot of people come in and you realize, oh, society's reflections start coming into AAP as well. I think impact investing is the same. We are right now at the cross, at a juncture where we are becoming a reflection of the capitalistic society, which means the aggregators of capital are moving. And it's not really venture capital. They are actually aggregators of capital. They will do whatever capital wants. So those who own capital, when they start saying that I will allocate 3% to impact investing, the aggregators of capital are the first one to come to know. And Avishkar will never come to know because the owner of capital actually does not talk to Avishkar. They talk to the people who are the large fund managers. The large fund managers are guys who are managing hundreds of billions of dollars. And therefore, they are the first ones to reach out to. And so if I am actually a capital aggregator, my response will be, hey, you allocated capital to impact investing. What's so special? As per the GIN report, you have to just put a name impact in front of you and you have to come up with an impact measurement tool. Both these things require $200,000 of expense. I have to raise a $2 billion fund. That's 0.01% of my fee and I should be able to do it. So therefore, the threshold that we have set aside for impact investing is quite low at this point of time. And that challenge we are going to deal with. And as you rightly point out, it is something that we should be very aware of. And so if you read my article on India Development Review, this is exactly what I have said. Impact investing is being co-opted, partly because the threshold to become an impact investor is very low.
Thanks, Vineet.
Thank you.
Inviting Bakshish to ask the question.
Good evening, sir. Myself, Bakshish Saluja, and my question to you is, how can impact become India's next IT sector for job creation?
Well, thank you so much for saying it. I've been trying to tell the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister and everybody else that all our challenges are actually can be addressed if we can build the impact investing sector in a manner that it can actually really create jobs where people live. When you started seeing migrants walking back, you call them migrants, I call them human beings. Human beings started walking back from their cities, from large metropolitan cities to their villages. They were walking back not because they wanted to leave where they were working, but because they were not given jobs, adequate jobs where they come from. When we started Avishkar, our belief was that you have to create jobs where people live and not really. And again, I'm not against urbanization. So it does not mean that I'm against city. I genuinely believe that the cities could actually be far closer to where people live. So instead of walking 1,500 kilometers, they need to walk 50 kilometers to go back to their villages. For that to happen, investing has to actually get out of the Silicon Valley mindset, which is a very challenging thing. Because we have not been able to break through that mindset, which says that investing should happen in 30 kilometers from where you live. And yes, if we are able to somehow convince the government to understand that impact investing is different from venture capital, and that impact investing create jobs that are very important for the society, that it is something that can create a more egalitarian society for a country like India, which is probably at the bottom of, is very low in the ranking when it comes to the diversity we have between the rich and the poor. We might actually, if we have to create a sustainable, stable society, we need to actually bridge this gap, and impact investing will play a role. So a very good question, a very, very good question actually. And I hope your points of view are actually heard by those who are in place of power, and also those who actually control the capital, so that we are able to, a lot of people like me who are actually trying to play a role in impact investing are able to make a difference.
Before I invite participants in general to ask their questions, Vineet, I just wanted to make I mean, it's an old question. We've discussed it many times, that until the measure of value itself is changed, can we ever solve this? Can there really ever be true impact? Because the fact of the matter is that the value of a standing forest, just by the fact of it being there and all the many functions it plays on the planets, on the atmosphere, in the biosphere, there actually isn't a monetary value for that. So until the measure of value changes, how can we have impact in any meaningful sense to save the planet for the young people who are on this show?
So I think, Rajni, this actually goes back to a question that I was having a debate with my own colleagues. Being a forester, I was actually telling them, what do you think is the difference between a sapling, a tree, a plantation, and a forest? Can you make a distinction between that? And most people will not be able to make a distinction, because for them, forest is a lot of trees. So a plantation is as good as a forest. I think the challenge of diversity and valuing diversity, this starts coming in. See, again, the moment I start talking diversity, it actually comes down to class, creed, races, all those things. So it's actually the same challenge that you see in a forest. Distinction between a forest and a monoculture plantation of eucalyptus, which has been a long-standing debate, also applies. Why should you have a certain skin color and you will be treated as a privilege and not having it? Yes, stakeholders and shareholders value differential will always remain a challenge, and that would require a fundamental difference. So how do you actually account? How is the accounting standard change? Now, impact investing has yet not been able to integrate anything into its accounting. So till the time we follow IFRS, which is all about actually taking comprehensive returns for the shareholder and not for the stakeholder, you will continue to have impact as the tail of the dog, and the dog will wag it the way it wants. So unfortunately, till the time the tail becomes the dog and capital becomes the tail, we will continue to have a system which is largely driven by the dog. And this is really the clash. The clash is people like me who are actually taking a very controversial position are also being criticized all over that this guy is actually insecure about new players coming in. I'm not insecure. I'm actually more worried about how the consequence would be, because once we are fully co-opted, and I think that's really the challenge.
Thank you so much. The floor is open for questions from all who are part of this gathering. So what is the mechanism, Amit? Is there I'm not familiar with the technology of raising hand.
So I'm seeing 3 hands raised. So what we'll do is, to everyone who's going to ask a question, please keep it very brief. We are in the final 4 minutes. Just please ask 30-second questions. I'm just going to call out your names, and then, Vineet can answer those together. So Harsh, go ahead. You get a 30 seconds first, please.
Yeah, hi Vineet. So just one question in terms of, as you said, multiple players coming into the industries and industry widening. Do you see, because of, its return being chased, impact getting compromised to that extent per se?
Thank you, Harsh. And Vineet, I'll take all the 4 questions, then you please answer them. Okay, I see Pratyush Panda. Please go ahead, Pratyush, 30 seconds.
Yeah. Hi, Vineet. I have 2 small questions. One is, how do you see social exchange coming out? Will it gain some momentum? Will it provide some additional boost to the sector itself on impact investment? Can you just give us more detail? And second one is, when you're talking about COVID-19, when human beings were going down, again they'll be coming back. Do you see any specific or kind of impact investment for them as well?
Thanks, Pratyush. I see Radhika. Radhika, what's your question? Quick 30 seconds.
Hello, sir. My question is, a lot of companies allocate a lot of CSR funds for different social activities. How at present the governmental rules do not include include impact investing as a part of CSR. How can we include impact investing as a part of CSR? Thank you.
Thank you. And I see 2 other questions, final ones, and then Vineet, it's Sia Marwa. Sia, go ahead, ask your question.
Yeah. When you look at investing in an organization, what are the key factors you consider which could make your investment a success?
Thank you. And Manthan, you get the last question.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to ask this question, sir. My question is, what would you advise your own 20-year-old self looking ahead to make this Avishkar as big as it is today?
Thank you. Okay, Vineet. How will you clone yourself to all the other questions? Go ahead.
See, impact versus return is actually a fatal challenge. I don't think so. It's really that I am really concerned about. I think mainstreaming, marginalization, people coming in without really understanding what they're doing is actually quite common. So we just need to actually regulate the activity of those who are coming in. And so I'm actually not so concerned about where there's people are actually not making impact. It's just a matter of whether what they are claiming, is it new? Remember that impact investing actually asked itself to be different from investing. Otherwise, I mean, if you are just doing investing, why are you using the label of impact investing? That's really the question. Not because they are actually chasing return, because making returns a very challenging task. Whether you are mainstream or impact, it is a challenging task. I'm actually more concerned about just the misuse of the label. The moment it is misused, the label is misused, it creates trouble. So that's really what if impact investing is same as investing, then why call it impact investing? There's no need for us to reinvent. Personally, by the way, I never called myself an impact investor. The term was coined 8 years after I started. So 2008 is when we coined the term. On the social stock exchange, well, social stock exchange is actually so my personal position, and it can be a very revolutionary idea. The report is a brilliant output, even though I was part of it, but I would still say the report is a brilliant output. What we do with the report and how we actually implement it is going to make a difference. I think the most important thing is not what it will do for the for-profit entrepreneurs, but what it is designed for the not-for-profit side. And I think there are two things, and I would actually congratulate SEBI on this, where they actually pointed out that the social venture funds structure that they had already created can actually be a very effective tool for not-for-profits to raise capital, because it is the only legislated, regulated entity that allows you to do debt, equity, and everything else together. So my general belief is it has the potential to revolutionize, because there is no social stock exchange anywhere in the world that is regulated by the regulator and has the potential to actually, if you make false claims, there will be a serious penalties that can follow. That doesn't exist. Whether it was London Stock Exchange, the impact investing stock exchanges that exist anywhere. In the COVID-19 world, I think at this point of time, really nobody is doing anything, but there is actually a huge potential possibility for impact investors to really think about what can be done. I think the first port of call has been microfinance. Just think about it. A person who walks 1,500 kilometers from one place to another is skilled and is capable, and most likely is the smartest person, because he or she chose to walk 50 or take a train 1,500 kilometers to start a business or work in a metropolitan city. Must be the brightest person in the village. Now that person has gone back to the village. If he or she is backed by capital, most likely can actually create successful enterprise. So if I'm from UP, if you're a UP or a Bihari or a Jharkhandi or this thing, there's a great opportunity for you guys to become angel investors and find these guys and give them an opportunity to build their business, because they have worked in highly professional environment in Delhi's and Bombay's and actually know how to survive. So great idea. I don't think so impact investors right now are doing anything, but though there are some impact investors, as you will hear from Geeta and others, who are actually thinking about how to support micro, small, medium enterprises. We also through Arohan are actually participating in the government program of funding the warriors who have walked back. I personally, the question on CSR, I personally don't think that CSR should be allowed to participate in impact investing. I will again repeat, impact investing is not a competition to philanthropy. Impact investing is a competition to the mainstream capital. If it is treated as a competition to philanthropy, it will destroy philanthropy and it will destroy itself. We are not here to change what is needed to help the very poor. Impact investing finds it incredibly difficult to help very poor, destitute, and others. We are not designed for it. We are willing to help those who are economically active and up to low income, but not designed to help destitutes and poor. That's the job of philanthropy. We are not in the business of taking capital away from philanthropy. We should leave that capital. We should be competent enough to actually take the money from the venture capitalist and private equity from the mainstream world. So CSR should be left untouched and should not be touched. What would be my own advice to myself? Nothing. Just enjoy. I actually managed to do what I did was simply because I was not thinking much. I had no idea. I did not actually know also what I was doing. I don't come from a finance background. I didn't know rich people. I did not even identify. I couldn't differentiate between a rich and a poor person. So I believe if you are naive, you are stupid. You have the ability to change the world. So if you, so just be that. Just be
Vineet, on that strong line, if you are naive, that stupidity empowers you to change the world. I wanted to thank you once again for taking the generous time off, and to Rajni for making herself available for this interview, Nishit Bhai and Jeremy and Ty to support us. And I want to call on Rajat Tandon, the CEO of the Indian Private Equity and Venture Capital Association, as his association has come up for a mention more than a few times today, for Rajat himself to raise a word of thanks. So Rajat, over to you.
Thank you, Amit. Thank you for setting this lovely platform. And here we have no other than the guru in back this investing speaking to all of us. Vineet, really want to say thank you. Not only you put across an excellent session today, but the way you approach thing and your intention, right, is towards impact investment is what makes all the difference. We've seen a lot of people do that, but I think your intent and your approach is completely different and candid, which really supports it. Just want to say thank you to Rajni. I think, probably you're the knowledge person over here and guiding this through. Nishit Bhai, as always, you provide the channel and the support for all us to be successful. Jeremy, we didn't get to speak, but I think you are the guy who helps build real good solutions and innovators. So thanks a ton, and all my other colleagues and friends, at Thai who are helping in outreach. Nishit Bhai, also wanted to tell you, we just did a survey of IBCA members. I think close to about 40-45% of the people said IBCA should start focusing on impact.
Thank you so much.